Welcome to the Southern U Podcast, brought to you by Darden Archery on the Okayest Podcast Network, with your co-host Matt Brock, Jeremy Ferguson, and Taylor McMurtry. If you're looking for all things land-related in the Southeast, you came to the right place. Whether it's real estate, habitat, wildlife, or just being outdoors, this is the place for you. Welcome to the Southern U. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Southern U Podcast, where we talk all things land-related here in the South. We talk land, we talk timber, hunting, farming, everything in between. And I am joined by, I wasn't going to say this, but he's got it as his name down here. You can see it right here in the bottom corner. The AL deer legend himself, deer slayer extraordinaire, Matt Brock. What's up, Matt?
I'll just embrace it, I guess.
That's right.
I was wondering why it said that.
Yeah, I mean,
well, if you tell the same lie over and over, people begin to believe it. So,
yeah.
Well, you begin to believe it too.
I'm believing it.
And also on the call with us is Jeremy Ferguson of Wildlife Consulting Services / Tut Land, and he is actually in the Whitetail capital USA. He's in Kansas right now, helping hunters. A lot of these guys put tags around bucks of their dreams.
Yeah, man, it's a little slow right now. We had some phenomenal weather early last hunt, and took a couple of really nice deer. But yeah, just hanging out here in Kansas
for sure. Yeah, and Matt, if you want to give people a little recap, you had some success in Illinois, right?
Yeah, had a great trip to Illinois. Showed up on a place that I had an opportunity to hunt with some guys that have a long-term lease. Got there, and there was one other guy on the property at the time, hunting about the same time I was. Anyway, I'd never set foot in the place, studied some aerial imagery, checked out a couple places the first day I got there, put up a few cameras, hung a stand, and was very successful in that one location. I mean, I hopped around in the afternoons and hunted some alfalfa and clover fields and some small food plots with standing corn and soybeans, and saw plenty of deer. But that one river stand, there was a crossing that came across the river.
Oh no,
we're losing Matt.
Y'all, this is why the federal government needs to get this fiber optic finished up and put in everywhere.
And there was a major hub when you got to the other side. Several.
Sorry, guys.
Oh, man.
We got technical difficulties.
Have I been talking to myself?
Yes, sir. You've been talking to nobody but yourself.
Yeah, well, it says low network bandwidth.
Yeah.
I'm sorry about that, guy. Anyway, moral of the story is I hung a stand at a major crossing where there were several trails that intersected, and I sat there 3 mornings and saw a pile of bucks. I don't even remember how many, but it was just rack after rack after rack. And I was sitting there about 9:20. I think it was Saturday morning, I believe. Yeah, Saturday morning. And
oh no!
Dang it! Right to the good part.
Man,
kaploosh myself again.
Oh, I love that we got the kaploosh.
Are y'all getting anything now?
We got now. The kaploosh.
Yep. Yeah, we heard kaploosh.
Do I just need to get on my phone?
Apparently so.
Let me try that. Just let me log off and try that.
All right.
Lord Almighty, y'all.
Yep. We just
gotta love technology.
That's right. Yeah, you said Kansas though, you've had what, 2 bucks?
2 bucks. Had 6 hunters in camp and two kills and had one swing and miss.
Yep.
So that's 50% shot opportunity. So that's pretty solid.
Absolutely.
We do have a minimum up here, and had some borderline deer pass, and actually had some deer that met the minimum that were passed. Just guys looking for a little better deer. Our minimum here is 140, and so we had a couple guys have some some mid 140s type deer under them that they let walk. So
right,
we had a phenomenal 2.5 to 3 days. Weather was just great, but the last couple of days of the hunt, wind turned out of the south. We had temperatures into the low to mid 70s, so things just kind of movement slowed drastically.
Yep. Yeah, well, weather can do that, but Matt, we can jump back over to yours. We pick up at the Kaploosh.
Okay, so I heard a loud kaploosh, and I immediately knew that it was a deer hitting the river. And I turned around, looked over my right shoulder, and I could see his rack, and just from his neck up, swimming the river. He came up on the sandbar, and I knew immediately it was a deer that I would shoot when he came up out of the water. I was like, well, he's mature. So he came up the bank, and there was an intersection of trails there, 4 or 5 trails coming together. And he just hit that hub right in front of me, and it was very thick in there. It's a cottonwood, green ash, box elder bottom, right on the riverbank, and it looked like it was probably pasture several years ago that's just grown up naturally. Because all the hardwoods around it are big, nice, oak, hickory, maple, just big woods, and then you've got this bottom that's just thick and nasty. So anyway, I waited and waited. I drew my bow when he was about 20 yards and couldn't get a shot. He stopped behind some stuff. He just sat there and he shook the water off, groomed himself, right back hip, left back hip. And then he got his torso. He's just licking around and just, not in a hurry to do anything. And I was obviously in a hurry to put him on the ground.
Right.
But anyway, I got creative, and sometimes you just have to make a shot happen. And I got to thinking, is there a shot opportunity if I squat in a stand? Because his vitals were covered up by a lot of thick brush. So I let my bow down. I eased down in the stand when he turned his head and looked. And if I sat on my ankles, put my butt to my heels, I could shoot the deer. So I stood back up slowly, drew my bow, knelt back down, and had a wide open view of his vitals. Absolutely smoked him. He went about 35 to 40 yards and piled up. He was a good deer. He was mature. He's got very short beams. I mean, I try not to get too disappointed in the score of deer sometimes. He was, key thing is I went up there to shoot a mature deer, and that's what I did.
Sure.
His beams kind of kill the score. He would have been mid 140s if he had beam length, but he's got 17 and 3/8 inch beams, both of them, which is unusual. I don't kill very many mature deer with beams that short. That's kind of odd.
That's cool. So
that sounds like some Alabama measurements there.
Yeah.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. Like even in Alabama, our average beam length on a 5-year-old buck's like 21 inches.
Yeah, 20.
So yeah. So to kill a mature deer in the Midwest with 17.5 inch beams is just kind of unusual. But I mean, he's got everything else. He's got great mass. He's got tine length. He's a beautiful deer. Very proud of him.
That's cool, man. I meant to ask how far you said the shot was. You're sitting on your ankle or sitting on your heels. How far away was he?
Yeah, it was 20 yards.
Oh,
20.
Man, yeah.
20 yards.
I would have got creative too if he's that close. Can't let him get that close.
Yeah, because I mean, I was just sitting there. Yeah, I mean, and one thing he was kind of quartering to me. So as he was coming, he's walking to me, and I'm looking ahead of him, and I'm like, okay, I've got a couple of gaps right there I can shoot through. So as he's quartering, walking to me, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go ahead and draw at this moment. So he got to that point, and I went ahead and drew, and he stopped right there. And I was like, okay. I held my bow maybe 40 to 50 seconds, and I'm like, I'm not gonna hold anymore. Let it down and got to thinking about other ways to make this happen. I couldn't lean out, either way and make it work. There was just too much brush, but lo and behold, kneeling in the stand and getting down low, I had a perfect opportunity. And I normally try to avoid quartering 2 shots on mature deer with archery equipment. But what made this possible, when he turned to groom himself, he was grooming his offside hip, and it exposed his vitals
Oh
perfectly
man,
broadside. Oh
he
yeah,
was just
perfectly
he's just laying that thing out there.
Yeah, posing.
Yeah.
No doubt. Yeah. Well, I don't have nearly as cool a story, but I was able to go Sunday evening to a little small piece of property that I've got permission to hunt. And one of the other guys that hunts there said that his cell camera on this one little food plot they've got has a ton of does on it. And said, man, we really need to thin a few of these guys, a few of them out. And so, like, I'm your huckleberry, So, the only thing was I forgot about the time change, and so I'm taking my time, kind of getting my stuff together, whatever. And I looked outside, and I'm like, man, it's dark for 1:30. It sure is dark. Like, oh no, it's 2:30. Like, oh man, I gotta go. It's gonna be pitch black dark at 5:30. So, and it's about a
Yep.
35-minute ride from the house anyway. So I just throw all my stuff in and run over there and actually put my saddle platform on top of. There's a ladder stand in a tree, but I don't know. I don't have anything against ladder stands necessarily, but it's a double man stand and it's on a food plot and it's just kind of out in the middle of just wide open. So I'm like, I just don't want to climb up in that and hunt out of it. So I put my platform on the back side of the same tree, just right up above it, and I really don't even know, 6, 7, 8, somewhere in that neighborhood of adult does come out, and they're all about 33 yards away from me. But then I had one, the doe that I ended up shooting comes out completely separate from all of them and is up underneath the platform of that ladder stand. Stays under me for like 5 minutes, and I'm just like, all those other deer are looking at it like, what are you doing? Why are you over there? Come over here with us or whatever. And so finally it ends up working its way out to about 10 yards facing away. And I love a quartering away shot, and gave me a good look. And so I like those nice and close shots. That shot hurt about 10 yards. And so that's about the only one that I've flung out of the new Darton this year at an animal, and so it made short work though. Pretty impressed.
How many is that make that you've shot this year, Brock?
I have killed 4.
And it's by the way, for context, it's November the 5th today. So
yeah,
it's killed.
Our season's been what, open 20 days?
Yeah, about to say like 40 days or something.
And I've only hunted in Alabama 3 times, I think. Killed 2 deer, same hunt, but I've been in the woods 3 times in Alabama.
Well, must be nice. That's all I can say.
Yeah. That's why he's the legend, folks.
That's right. They don't call him that for no reason. Oh, man. Well, yeah, it's good, man. It's getting that time of year. It's November. You Midwestern guys, those of you, we have a small segment, small population that listen to the podcast, and not real sure why. We're glad you're here. Don't get me wrong, but you guys have better deer and better habitat and just better hunting in general than we have, but glad you're listening. You guys are getting fired up because this is the time where big bucks get on their feet and start cruising around looking for does, and anything can happen. You're almost afraid to get out of the tree. A lot of you guys will even, pull all day sits where you get out there before daylight and don't get out until last shooting lights ended. So you just never know when one can come cruising by. So we were just going to take today's episode and just kind of compare and contrast kind of some Midwestern stuff versus some Southern stuff for the month of November, and just kind of like how hunting strategies, some of them may be similar, some of them may be a little different, and there are different things, different behavior that deer are exhibiting this time of year in both places, and so it kind of changes up how you have to hunt. And so with you guys, Jeremy still is in Kansas, and Matt just got back from Illinois. Thought it'd be kind of a cool take to get some perspective on how that stuff played out for you guys out there, and maybe how it's going to play out here for the rest of us in the South.
Yeah.
10-4.
They're excited. You can tell, you guys.
But it's just, I mean, look, we're all hunting deer, and everybody realizes that, but it's so different.
It is.
It is.
I don't want this to sound the way it's going to, but I'm just going to say it. Killing mature bucks up here in the Midwest is not hard. Now, on pressured lands, that's different. Pressure's pressure, and they feel it, whether it's in Alabama or Kansas or Washington State. But most places that I've hunted in the Midwest do not have the pressure that we do in the South, even the public lands. But it's a blast, seeing these deer, do what they do and rut as hard as they rut up here. You just can come to the Midwest, for you Southerners that don't, and see deer be deer, out in the open where you can see them,
Yep.
not in the pine thicket.
No, I agree. I will never forget the first time that I ever went to Illinois. And I went to Pike County there, and the first good cold morning that I had to sit in a stand, and I counted 9 rack bucks in about 3.5 hour sit, I guess. And I remember getting down, and Dad's like, did you see anything? And I was just like, this is unbelievable. There have been seasons, plural, where I have not seen 9 rack deer in Alabama. Now, you may say, you're hunting terrible property or you're just a terrible hunter. Maybe both things are true. I don't know what to tell you. I'm just saying the first time I sat in a tree in Pike County, Illinois, I saw 9 rack bucks. I was just like, this is crazy. It's just a different planet.
It's a completely different scenario. And I'm like, I'm with Jeremy. I don't mean this derogatory toward Midwestern hunters, but if they've never hunted the South, they do not understand or comprehend what we're talking about. And likewise with Southern hunters, if they've never been to the Midwest, they don't get it either.
No.
You get to watch deer do deer things. And that's what's so unique about hunting out there. Case in point, heck, I know 6 individuals that were in Illinois or other parts of the Midwest the same time frame I was there. All 6 either field a tag on a mature buck or had shot opportunities on a mature buck. And you take those same 6 individuals hunting very high quality property in Alabama, and they may not get an opportunity on a mature buck with a 3.5 month long season. Mm-hmm. So, the deer just get on their feet. They move better. They're easier to see. They're easier to pattern. I remember my first trip to Illinois and actually seeing deer trails and going, wow, this is what people are talking about. You don't see deer trails in Alabama. Deer just wander around and walk wherever they want to.
Yeah.
No, I agree. Those bucks that I was talking about, they all came to a scrape that was underneath an Osage orange tree, and every one of them went over there and checked that scrape. Mm-hmm. And look, I'm not saying that doesn't obviously it does happen in Alabama. It has to. But as far as visually seeing that happen in daylight hours, I've never seen a buck go and check a scrape in Alabama. I know it happens, but I saw 9 deer do it in one morning. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. 30 yards away from me. Yeah. And I'm just like, wow,
Well, most scrape activity that I've seen in Alabama has been on camera at night, and I rarely see mature bucks visit scrapes in the state of Alabama. I don't even hunt scrapes anymore. I used to when I was younger, and it was a futile effort. Never resulted in anything. Mm-hmm. So out there, though, when I got to walking around and scouting while I was there last week, the first thing I did was put cameras up on active scrapes, and I got pictures of deer on active scrapes within 35 to 40 minutes of walking away from them in the afternoon. So, every buck in the area was hitting those scrapes and checking things out, and that's what I was hunting that that travel corridor, that major hub of several trails coming together. There were scrapes all in there, rubs everywhere, several trails, and man, just bucks moving all day and night in there. And you just don't see that kind of behavior here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think, this is just anecdotal evidence, but I think probably a large part of it has to do with, the sex ratios up here seem to be quite a bit better, and the deer density. There's a lot more competition for does, at least where we're hunting. I'm not going to say that's everywhere in the Midwest, because there's definitely high deer densities throughout the Midwest. But here, if they want a shot at breeding a doe, by gosh, they're going to have to get on their feet and get to looking.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
So, just all that said, there seems to be quite a bit of difference, and I was thinking it'd be kind of cool to compare and contrast and talk a little bit about what has worked up there, if it applies to the South, or if not, then what can you do or what should you do, those type of things. This is the first one, if you guys are ready to rock and roll. First question that I have here is, this is just one that I see happen in the Midwest a lot, and people are very successful doing it. And I guarantee you, if I was to ask Jeremy now, preset stand locations that you guys have, how many of them are in the back corner of some sort of ag field where you've got, the very, very back corner, it's all ag, and then you've got just like a small finger woods that comes out. You've got stand placement right in that little corner right there, and you're primarily hunting the edge of that field. Is that relatively?
Yes, it's very common here. Where we are, there's not, or I guess in our region of Kansas, there's not a ton of agriculture. We've got a lot of prairie.
Right. Gotcha.
But we happen to have, the agriculture that's in the area.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got a mix, but in the areas, on the farms that we've got that are ag, they are in inside corners.
Mm-hmm.
Or they're going to be in pinch points that are narrow between larger fields. There may be some pinch points that are, 80 to 100 yards wide, and you've got to find where those deer are crossing. But, it shoves them down to a tight little point that,
mm-hmm.
You can possibly cover the entire distance if you sit in the middle. Now, that's not always possible. Because of wind and travel corridors and all that. But, that was just an example. But our stands, and I'll tell you, and this is kind of why I say these deer they're just really not that hard to kill when you figure out how they travel. We put up approximately 20 to 25 stand locations a year, because we don't run a lot of hunters up here. Ariel's just always had that philosophy
mm-hmm.
that he doesn't want to overhunt anything. And 95% of them are in the same tree they've been in for years.
Yep.
Now we tweak things as the landscape changes. Every now and then trees blow over, or these farmers clear a little bit more ground for either pasture or ag, and that, impacts us. But, for example, the two deer that y'all seen that I've killed up here the last few years came out of the same tree. Joe Lindsay's 181 came out of the same tree. David Nashay's 170 something came out of the same tree. And one of our other guides, Trey McElrath, and I were hunting together several years ago, and just got to noticing that we were missing a lot of these deer that were coming through the woodlot that we were hunting. Even though we were getting a few of them and killing bucks, the majority were missing us, by about 60 yards. We moved it to that tree, and it's been there the last 4 years, and that's the 4 bucks that we've pulled out of there.
Yeah. And the reason I asked that is, I think there are preset places like that on field edges that can work in the South, but it just doesn't seem to be quite as successful as it is in the Midwest. And I guess the question I was wanting to ask you guys and get your feedback, because y'all are either in the Midwest or just got back versus here, is when do you decide I want to hunt the field or the plot, or when do I want to get off of those plots or off of those fields and get inside the tree line and get in the timber a little bit from that? And is that strictly determined by rut, or is that determined by some other means to go, I want to hunt this field versus I want to hunt inside the timber?
Yeah, I'm interested to hear what Matt's got to say, because mine is, I mean, immediately the answer is it's going to depend on where I am hunting. If I'm hunting the south on our club where Matt and I hunt together,
Mm-hmm.
I'll hunt the field edges, the big open edges year round, or season round, because our deer aren't overly pressured. If I'm hunting my other place that we've got all those clubs beside, I'm not going to hunt anywhere open over there unless it's a rut, because you're not going to see deer daylighting out in the open,
Right.
because they're so pressured by the immediate neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I agree. And that one, I guess we're trying to compare and contrast southern hunting and Midwest hunting. So out there, while I was there last week, I was hitting food sources and field edges in my evening hunts.
Mm-hmm.
Because one thing you do not want to do is get down in those wood lots and bust deer out walking in the early afternoon, because once you bust them out of there, guess what? You're not going to get to see them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're
But a
going
lot
to the
of times
next
you can
wood
slip in
lot
there
half a
early in the
mile
mornings
away.
and get in. That's exactly right. So, I would hunt the wood lots and things, get in there where they're bedding in the morning, and hunt the woods in the morning, and I'm hunting field edges in the afternoon. Around here, it just depends on location. I've got some field edges that are great for morning stands, with cruising bucks, but like Jeremy was saying, most of those places are on unpressured properties.
Mm-hmm.
Pressure and the neighboring pressure around you has a lot to do with what deer do during daylight hours. And for some reason or another around here, we typically have enough land that is not getting overly pressured, that you can hunt some morning stands around here and get away with seeing a lot of deer movement that you would not otherwise.
Right. I mean, like the only experience that I have is I have been able to hunt Missouri in early season. Like I've been able to hunt Missouri like opening weekend, and I've also been able to hunt Kentucky opening weekend, and I've been able to hunt a few other places like that early. And I've only been able to hunt like Illinois, in what would be considered the rut. Basically Halloween through November the 8th or 9th, 10th, whatever. And I guess the perception is like you watch these TV shows where people are hunting the Midwest, and it's like, okay, here's a bean field. Well, just go get in the very back inside corner of this bean field in early season and just watch the deer pile out in the evening. They're going to come out there and eat on those beans. Well, that was the idea. That was kind of the game plan going in. And I mean, I'm kind of embarrassed to say, like, we couldn't see a deer, like couldn't see one hunting the edge of and we called the guy that took me up there. We ended up calling one of his friends that lives there, and he said, hey man, like, what's going on? We've hunted 2 whole evenings, both of us have, in separate locations, and we can't see a deer early season. You know what I mean? Like, what's the deal? And he said, what do those beans look like? I said, what do you mean? And he's like, is there any, like, are they solid green, or is there any amount of yellow at all? And I said, the very tips of the leaves look like they may have a little yellow. And he's like, get away from them. Go hunt
Yep.
just like you would in Alabama. Go find some acorns, and so we did that, and then it was totally different. We started seeing deer
Yep.
left and right. But on the flip side of that, I've also hunted those same inside corners during the rut when all the ag is picked and there's nothing out there. And deer will, in the Midwest, will just walk out in the middle of a wide open field. You know what I mean? Like, and you can see there. So I just in the South have never. I do not. And again, I know there's going to be people that listen to this and comment and go, "Well, I've killed the biggest deer of my life in the morning off a food plot," and that's fine. In my experience, all I have to go off of, I have tried to, I've tried to hunt plots or fields in the morning at various times, rut, early season, October, November, whatever. And it just seems like bucks just don't aren't interested in plots in the morning for me everywhere that I've hunted. Now in the evening, totally different story. You might get some mature deer to come step out there in a wide open field in the south, but it just seems like you're just almost always better off in the south to go hunt in the timber, at least. Like again, maybe the stuff that I'm hunting is a lot more pressured than what you guys have got going on, but that's just my kind of take on it, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I've had pretty good success on plots in the morning here during the rut and the rut only.
Mm.
Not
Yeah.
necessarily any other time of the year, but and when I say morning, I mean like 10 a.m. to noon. It's really
Oh,
more
okay.
midday.
Right.
They're gonna swing by and check those fields.
Yes, yes, because they may be holed up in a thicket somewhere with a doe that morning, or cruising thickets and bedding areas, and then when they leave those areas after they check those, sometimes they'll go hit areas they know deer like to or does like to feed. Um, and now
That
with baiting, I mean, heck, let's
oh yeah.
face it, most food plots now have a feeder or feed in some capacity out there. And
Right.
bucks hit those one right after another. They'll go from one area of feed to another area of feed, and that's been proven in South Carolina studies. Deer just during the rut, they hit one bait pile after the next. That's what they did. They traveled from bait pile to bait pile to bait pile all day and all night during the rut.
Hmm.
That
Well,
that's why we talk about if your neighbor's baiting, you got to as well.
hmm.
Yeah, I mean,
uh,
if you want to kill a deer, you basically have to.
Yep. Yep. Well, and that's what I mean. Like when I say fields, I'm talking about just something that's planted, not necessarily a feeder that's stuck out
yeah.
there with to sling corn or something.
Well, what Matt mentioned about having success in the morning is one reason that I'm a huge proponent of really long, narrow fields. Kind of like a hub and spoke type shape or turkey foot. Something that's just some narrow openings that a buck's not going to feel threatened to. Hey, I can walk across that thing in 3 seconds.
Hmm.
Yep.
Versus walk across a 2.5 3 acre field that's 400 500 foot wide. Chances are in the mornings that's not going to happen. They may come scent check them, but those are long narrow strips, especially when there's two or three that they can kind of cruise around the edge of and cross quickly. I've had good success, like Matt said, more so late morning than anything.
Hmm.
Yeah, and that's an important part of what you just said. A lot of times on the larger food plots, rather than having mature bucks walk out in them, they'll come to the edge, stick their head out, and look for a few seconds. And if they don't see a doe, they move on without walking across the field.
Hmm.
Whereas if it's a narrow opening, they'll come out, stick their head out, walk straight across if they can be across it in a few seconds and move on to the next. But that's one thing I think that is a major difference between here and the Midwest. Most of the mature buck opportunities I've had in Alabama, regardless of the time of year, with maybe the exception of early season when they're feeding on acorns. Otherwise, I've literally had seconds to make a decision on whether or not to shoot a deer and to make it dead.
Hmm.
Mm.
You just don't get to watch deer here very long. A lot of the deer that I've killed have been in very thick cover, and I think that's why I've been so successful. I don't necessarily see any more mature deer than the next guy, but the ones I do see, I put them down. I put them down pretty quick because you don't have a lot of time. And I hear people say all the time, "Well, I saw a mature buck, didn't get to shoot him, didn't give me a broadside shot." Well, you better figure out other ways to kill them. You're
Yeah.
not gonna get a perfectly broadside shot, in 25 seconds to think about it.
Well,
Hmm.
that's kind of a side point of something we were talking about a little bit last night, and Matt, you may have already ducked off the bed, but there is, to me, I classify deer hunters kind of in two camps. There's hunters, and then there's killers. Uh, that, and it is a mindset, and it is a training thing. Those folks, and I'm going to throw Matt under the bus here. Those folks that go to the woods, and it seems like every time they come out of the woods, it's with some deer, whether it be a doe or Matt's not the guy shooting spikes and 4-points and whatnot, but a lot of times he's coming out with a deer. That just means his skill set is polished when there is a deer within range.
Yep.
And that is like I said, a mentality, and then it's also a training. We've had guys come to the Midwest to hunt with us, and kind of get locked up on big deer and can't draw, can't make it happen, and they come back and kind of explain everything that went on. We're like, look, you need to get in you a good club that's target rich, and you need to shoot every doe that steps in front of you with archery equipment, and hone that skill set, and then come back.
Yep. Oh yeah.
It's muscle memory. It's definitely training and muscle memory. Because when a good deer steps out on me with archery equipment, I'm prepared to kill him because I've gone through those steps so many times with does.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a scenario you can put me in where I don't know what to do or can't come up with some plan. But so, yeah, you've got to have experience killing deer. And that's what I tell, don't get so hung. If you're a new archery hunter, especially, don't get so caught up on having to kill a mature buck, but you don't understand and learn how to kill deer. You need to kill deer.
Yep.
And figure that out first.
Well, and that's like, my buddy Kyle, we've been working, trying to get a doe. And it was funny because when we hunted, opening weekend over at Jeremy's place, he made the comment, and I thought it was very good insight. Like he said, everybody likes to rib on whatever your favorite like hunting celebrity is. If it's the Bomars or it's Levi Morgan or it's whoever, it's just like, man, they get to go hunt the best ground and they've got all these big deer in front of them. Like, yep, that's true. But he said, but like those guys still got to like make that shot. You got to make it count. They still got to close the deal. And like, yes, that's absolutely right, man. Like you can have deer walk all over you, but if you can't seal the deal, it doesn't really matter. And so I just thought that was a very interesting insight from him, to go, this stuff ain't exactly as easy as everybody else makes it out to be. And I was like, no, it's not, man. You've still got to make a good shot when one's presented. So, and like Matt was saying, it's muscle memory and experience, but like those are things that even when we had RL on here last year talking, like, those are scenarios that you just can't replicate in your yard either. You can't go in the backyard and replicate when a deer, just like Matt said, I'm about to draw my bow because this buck's coming down this trail, and as soon as he steps out in my lane, well, he didn't. He hung up behind a tree, and now I'm at full draw, and I'm having to, you know what I mean? Like, well, what do you do in that scenario if you've never done it? It's just like there's just no way to prepare yourself for those moments other than just ripping through some does, man. You just gotta do it, and those opportunities are few and far between sometimes.
And that's another reason too. You can't do this on places that you may hunt once or twice, public land or anything like that. But you need to know the deer that you're after as well, especially in the South, because as Matt said, a lot of them you have seconds to make sure you're harvesting the deer. If you're hunting a particular deer or a particular age class, you've got seconds to make that decision. So really studying your deer is important if you're that far down the management line. Like Matt, there again, I guess that's why he's the legend. I don't hunt that much anymore. I don't study our deer like he does anymore, but I can describe a deer and where it's at, and he go, "Oh yeah, I know that deer," and he'll send me a picture, and it's like, "Yeah, that's him." But you need to be familiar, especially
I do study him.
Yeah, if you're management minded and you're trying to take it to the next level, you need to know your deer individually, at least your bucks,
right?
And sometimes some of those don't.
Yes, and that way when you do. Yes, because like Jeremy was saying, when you see a target deer, you may only have a few seconds, and you need to be able to identify, oh, that's that 5-year-old that I've had on camera for the last several years, or oh, that's that really good 3-year-old that I've asked everybody not to shoot. And well, if you only see him, for a few brief moments, and you don't want to kill a 3-year-old, but you see a really good rack deer and you shoot it and you get down there, well, heck, there's your 3-year-old. If you didn't identify him beforehand, so you really kind of know what's going on. And, a lot of this just applies to rifle hunters. You don't make a lot of mistakes with archery equipment as far as shooting the wrong deer. But it is very easy to do with a firearm. Very easy.
For sure. For sure. We're moving on down the list here. Here's one that I think would be very interesting, and it's probably a question that a lot of people at some point or another in the South have asked. But let's talk about rubs and scrapes, specifically in this time of year for the South, where we're talking about like November, where most of the South is not experiencing any kind of like chasing, behavior type stuff. But like, say you're trying to scout out a place and you find just trees that are just shredded and find a few scrapes. Are you the guys that go and set up and hunt over those areas, or do you find that to be like, like I know Matt said earlier, is a futile effort?
Matt?
I think he may have lost connection.
He dropped.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm all now.
Yeah, he'll come back.
Hey, Matt, just kill your video feed and I'll put your photo in instead whenever I edit everything. That might help.
Well, can y'all hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you. That way we can at least still hear you, and I can throw your photo
up. Everything.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I'll provide the photo.
There you go.
Oh, no, you're not.
Oh, me. I do not. Another unfortunate thing is I do not get to hunt very much at home during the early season because of my work schedule and then coming up here. But early season, I generally do not pay much attention to rubs except for in two locations. One is entrance and exits to fields on major trails, and two, once they get close to our known bedding areas, I will pay attention to those, but I'm not setting up on them. I can't remember setting up on a rub to hunt in the South in the last 20 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do y'all have me now?
Yeah.
Video and audio?
Your video spotty, but yeah, we got you.
Yep.
We can put your picture up and do your audio if we need to.
Yep.
Just be careful. Be careful with that.
Oh, we'll put one of your hero shots up there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what that means. That could mean one of several things, but
you're gripping. That could mean different things too. Holding a rack, but holding a deer or a turkey.
Okay.
let's narrow the scope down.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, with rubs and scrapes in the South, I pretty well just let that go, that hunting strategy go years ago, like Jeremy was saying. With one exception, and that exception is if I happen to find a lot of what I call cluster rubs in one location very near a bedding area. I know that a deer is getting out of his bed and he is hitting those trees before he goes anywhere, or he's hitting them before he comes back to bed. And I've killed a couple of really good deer that way. But as far as just, community scrapes or big random scrapes and rubs throughout a wood line, you can get the direction of travel that deer are headed to or from by looking at where those trees are or what side of the tree they're rubbed on. But I don't focus on those at all.
But
I think a good example of those cluster rubs, if you'll think back, I think it was the deer Caleb shot that we just never could figure out why we weren't seeing that deer. And he ran back by where we kind of thought he might be bedding and just kind of watching us go to and from, and found all those rubs there, and 2 or 3 beds on a little knob. And of course, we don't know if that's where he was bedding, but it seemed plausible because we had tried to hunt that deer, and nobody was able to see him for quite a while, and we were just walking by him.
Mm-hmm. Yep. He knew we were there every time we went.
But now, on the flip side of that, do you find that it's successful, or have you guys had success hunting over rubs or scrapes in the Midwest?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
and to some degree, I'll tell you what I primarily use the scrapes for up here, and I try to find what I would consider the larger, more community scrapes where you're seeing a number of bucks, a number of does come around one tree and just go all the way around it. When I find those up here, I use those to hang cameras on to do our early scouting before we get here.
Yep. Like that area that I killed that deer in Illinois, it was I call it a hub where there were several intersecting trails there, but the amount of rubs and scrapes in that bottom along those trails was unbelievable. I think I saw somewhere around 20 rack bucks in 3 mornings hunting there. They were all different deer. It wasn't like I was seeing repeats of the same ones. It was all different individual deer. And I also got pictures of several more that I did not see while hunting. So altogether, there may have been 30 different bucks that were using that area, and most of them in daylight hours.
Yeah. Right. We were going to check a location and take a ground blind down for a guy that had brought one up that had an injury and couldn't get in a stand the other day. And I mean, literally driving down the road with the windows down because it's 73 degrees up here. One of the other guys and I was like, I smelled deer. And we stopped and backed up because it was one of our little parking spots for one of our stand locations. And a deer had absolutely destroyed the little saplings right there by our little parking spot. And there was scrapes all around it. And I mean, literally driving down the road, if you know what a buck smells like, a rutting deer, when we drove by it at 15 miles an hour, you could smell it.
Yeah.
I mean, just
Yep.
every deer out there is coming by that one. But yeah, it's
I smelled several bucks out there while I was hunting. Some of them I smelled before I actually saw them.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's pretty wild. Totally off topic as far as that stuff goes, but it just made me think of a story when my buddy Jake drew the elk tag for Kentucky. You're talking about the like scrapes and stuff, just ruddy bucks. They have a stench about them. Apparently, I did not know this, but an elk smells like a horse barn, like livestock barn animal. Like we found some areas where they had been in and some wallows and stuff where they had rubbed trees, and it was just like immediate, just distinct, like this smells like a horse or something. And so yeah, I know what you're saying about, and just kind of being able to pick up on that. Let's see, moving on down the list here. We've touched on this a little bit, but I just want to get kind of some perspective on, like, you've talked about, like, there's a difference between hunters and killers, but like the mental aspect of hunting in November, like this time of year versus other times. Do you feel like the mentality and how you hunt, not necessarily, but just your mindset, I guess, does that change for the time of year, or are you always kind of trying to stay locked in and those sort of things?
Oh no, mine definitely changes up here. And I guess part of it is we've got limited time up here. So we're gonna hunt, whether we have time or not. Nobody is staying out of the woods because the wind's bad or it's warm or anything like that. It's by gosh, this time of year in November in the Midwest, be in a tree.
Mm-hmm.
I can't count the number of deer that we've pulled out of these farms that were, wrong wind or, whatever else, could go wrong or could be wrong as far as conditions. It's these deer, one, they've got one thing on their mind in general. And two, they just don't seem to be as wary as a southern whitetail.
No, look, the highest stand that I had or that I hunted in Illinois was about 14 feet off the ground. I wouldn't, and never got saw by a deer, not one. Would not dream of hunting that low in Alabama. You can't get away with it.
Nope.
Deer can see you in a tree and they walk around looking up and they can see you in a tree 150 yards away and you don't even have to move. They're just like, oh, wow, something's different. And I see it. It's different. And I don't like it. Whereas out there, I've had deer look at me at 10 to 12 feet off the ground and go right back to doing what deer do and never give me another glance.
Yeah.
That is very unusual in the South. We have deer that they pay attention to everything. But, going back to mentality, I would say that my mentality changes a lot. But let me back up just for a second. I think that, up there in the Midwest where your peak breeding is, November the 12th through the 15th, maybe the 17th of November. I think that the Halloween to about November the 5th, 6th, 7th is probably a really good time to get a big buck on his feet. When just the first few does are starting to hit estrus. Because the lockdown is real up there. I mean, it is very noticeable. But I also feel like that October 31st through November 5th, 6th, 7th or so, if we have a cold front in the South, long before our rut, I have had the greatest success with a bow over acorns and feed sources that first week in November. But let me tell you the difference in mentality. I don't mind, anytime you're hunting, it's a challenge, but when you're filming yourself and hunting, it's even a greater challenge. It took me about one hunt to figure out the camera has to go in Illinois. And the reason why is because down here, I'm hunting food sources the first week of November. I have time to judge a deer's next move, figure out where he's going to go, position the camera, get off a shot. Up there, I had deer that I didn't even know existed that were in range and out of range within 5 to 10 seconds. You don't have time to be fiddling around with a camera. So my mentality changed very quickly based off the phase of the rut and what the deer were doing when I got there.
Yep, I agree. And I guess, and even when I think mentality, there will be guys that go, all right, it's the rut. I'm hunting from before daylight till after dark. I'm not leaving this tree. I'm packing my lunch. I'm going to pack some water, snack, all that kind of stuff, and I'm not leaving because anything can happen at any time. And I mean, technically, I guess you could say that about any time of the year. But it's in the early season when it's, still 85 degrees and stuff, I'm just not doing that. I'm not going to stay in the tree all day.
No, me either.
But
no.
When the time is right and deer are just acting stupid, it's a whole lot easier. All day sit, I don't care if you're in a lock on, a climber, a ladder, a saddle, whatever. Sitting in a tree all day long is not fun, but it's a lot more tolerable when deer are losing their minds. You know what I mean? It's a lot easier to lock in and stay there when you've got deer just running everywhere. And so
you go,
but yeah, I mean that
he was outside.
I think that in terms of mentality, I think that's probably the only thing that changes for me is I'm more willing to spend more time, in a tree than in the kind of what should be the rut, I guess, than early season or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, most of the time outside of the rut, I'm hunting early mornings till about 10 a.m.
Hmm.
And then I won't get back in my stand again until that afternoon, 3 o'clock, 3:30. But in the rut, it can be vastly different. I try to be out there as often as I can.
Yeah, that's right. And one thing you were
Even
talking
down
about,
here, I mean, even in Alabama,
Oh, oh no, we lost him.
did we lose him?
Yep.
Yeah. Um, you mentioned mentality and the difference in hunters and killers, and part of that was, um, these guys that are super successful in the South, uh, and up here in the Midwest. If you're local, you can be selective. If you
Hmm.
hunt close to where you live, you can be selective about the parameters that you're willing to hunt in or
Right.
within. And I think that's a big difference in people that are killers versus hunters, that are weekend warrior or just hunt when they have the opportunity. Um, Killers, they wait till all the conditions are in their favor.
mm-hmm.
They don't go out and sit in a tree and be like, well, maybe he's going to walk by today. There's going to be some level of certainty that deer is going to do what he's been doing, and and the conditions are going to be right for you to not be seen getting in or out or smelled or anything else.
Yes,
And I think that is a distinct mentality, but it also, from what I have seen, it's got to do a lot with, if you are close to where you hunt versus not.
absolutely it does. And that I'm blessed. I get to hunt right here. As long as I'm in close proximity to the house, I can be in a stand pretty soon. If I had to travel long distance, like some of you guys are driving 2, 3, 4 hours just to hunt on the weekends, that would be difficult. Um, but yeah, it's that mentality, Jeremy, comes from a lot of failure, and
Yeah, it does.
you know what doesn't work.
Hmm.
And when I started hunting less under ideal conditions, I
You started
became
killing more.
far more successful. It's not about being in the woods every day. It's about
Nope.
being in the woods on the day, the
That's
day.
right.
Yep.
That's right. You don't go to hunt him.
That's
You
right. You
you
go to
go to
kill him.
kill him.
That is the difference. I don't go hunting deer. I go to kill a deer. So I'm not going to go after a particular deer until I know I can kill him, and then I usually do.
Yeah.
I mean, not always. Look, there are some challenging deer out there, very challenging deer, and they don't always read the script. Um, but yeah, it's a mentality of, everything's right today. I'm going to go do it. And hey, you got to make some sacrifices to do that. There's days people know not to ask me to do anything. If I've got a cold front coming at certain times of the year,
Yeah.
don't
Sorry.
ask. The answer is no. And I'm not going to do it. I'm going to go kill a deer on that day, so.
Yep. It's like Nick
And
Saban.
people,
Not gonna do it, so quit asking.
there's a lot of those no's that he slings around.
Yeah. No, but I mean, I'm glad that y'all brought it up because, the old saying is like, well, you can't kill them on the couch. Well, I mean, I guess technically speaking,
You
that's
can ensure your success by keeping your ass on the couch.
right. And that's what I
Yeah.
mean. It's like at some point, where does the scale start to tip a little bit where you're going, all right, I'm in the woods a lot. I'm trying to maximize my time. And don't get me wrong, we all have jobs, we all have lives, like we all have very limited time to get in the woods. But especially those of us who have to travel a lot, to get to
Mm-hmm.
just to get to somewhere where you can hunt. It's like, are you actually helping yourself by being in the woods when conditions suck and you've got terrible wind and stuff, or are you making things harder on yourself by doing that? Is it better to just wait it out, wait for the perfect wind and good conditions and the weather's doing what it's supposed to do, and then go in there when you have a chance?
Well, and
So
I think one of the things that's unique to the South, and this doesn't apply like states like Georgia, their rut in a large portion of their state is wide open right now.
right.
Yeah, buddy.
But Mississippi, Alabama, and other places, it's not. And our hunters get an opportunity to hunt deer for a very long, extended period of time
Too long.
before the breeding season. Yes. Yes. So I think that's what sets, some Southern hunters apart and able to understand deer behavior. They get to see and watch and observe deer for an extended period of time, much longer than people in other parts of the country. Um, and I think that's why a lot of Southern hunters are so successful when they do go to the Midwest, because they've hunted deer so long. I mean, man, look, our season opens up, depending on where you are in the state of Alabama, October the 1st for archery.
Yep.
October 15th for most of the state. And we get to hunt deer until January before they start breeding.
Mm-hmm.
So we get 2.5 months of playing around with deer and learning deer behavior. The rest of the country does not get that opportunity.
Right.
That's very true. Well, guys, that's really, I mean, that's kind of all the questions that I had. I had one little question on here about during that time of year, do you prefer kind of more open timber versus thick cover type stuff? If you guys want to tackle that, I think we kind of talked about that a little already, just kind of talking about other things. But
in the Southeast, especially where Matt and I do the majority of our hunting at home, I'm going to find a daggum clear cut.
Yes. Yeah. Open timber. I don't, the only time I hunt open timber is when acorns are falling, and that is it. I don't even step in. I don't go in there any other time of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
But out here, man, you can hunt these open spaces. I mean, we've got 2 or 3 sets out here that I promise you can see. Gosh, I bet you can see 3,000 or 4,000 acres. I mean, it's prairie, so you see a lot of open ground, and then there may be a 40-acre ag field and a 20-acre woodlot, but then there's thousands of acres of prairie out there in front of you. So it's just we made the joke up here with some of our hunters, a couple of them that are really, really experienced, killed a lot of big deer in the South and Midwest. And, one of the guys compared it to, it's like comparing apples to coconuts. You can eat both of them, but they are not even in the same hemisphere when it comes to, what they are.
That's where the comparison stops. They're both edible foods, and that's it.
Yeah. It's just, these deer up here, they're not the same as ours, But again, I go back and talk about it. A lot of it's pressure. There's a lot of I'm going to use air quotes here, and a guy said it the other day on commenting to us. There's a lot of whitetail consultants out there that are very successful in the upper Midwest and Midwest. But a huge part of what they are passing along to their clientele is, one, don't be seen going to and from the tree. 2, don't pressure your deer when you're not going to be able to kill them. And they wonder why they've turned into successful hunters, is they're finally paying attention to the 2 more important things. You can manage your land as well as you want. If you pressure deer the wrong way, you're still not going to be successful.
Yep.
Managing the deer in the ground's the easy part.
And, that's the same down here. I mean, managing hunters and hunter expectations and hunter behavior has more to do with success than actually managing the deer.
100%.
Yeah, managing wildlife and managing habitat is the easy part.
Yep.
Trigger restraint.
It is. It's a mentality, and I'm going to be a little disparaging here. I've been hunting the Midwest for now over 20 years, and it's slowly changing. But by and large, when you go to these areas that get really, really popular, because of TV or magazine articles or whatever it may be, they have a huge influx of people, primarily from the South, and they go up there and carry what they do in the South up, to the Midwest, and shoot the place down so bad that they have to change regulations. I'll head down there. I mean, a perfect example was some of the public lands in Kentucky. For several years, they were draw, and then they opened it up, and man, the Southerners couldn't get enough of it. I remember walking around on Higginson Henry WMA several years ago, finding 3 or 4 dead bucks that I know good and well they were found. And being in this business, and I was working for Game and Fish at the time early on, so I knew some of their biologists and officers up there, and called the biologist of the area up and said, "Hey man, what's the deal with finding these deer?" He said, "Oh, we've got no wanton waste law. If they walk up to it and don't want it, they don't have to take it." And I was there. I saw the tags on the trucks. Alabama, Georgia, Mississippi, Florida. Primarily, and unfortunately, that's the reputation that some hunters have given landowners and other folks throughout the Midwest, and caused it, to be a little harder to find ground. Of course, now it's so popular to be out here. People with money are leasing things up and all that. So that's changed a little bit, but got to be smarter about things like that.
Mm-hmm. No doubt. Well, guys, I think we'll pretty much wrap up what we had for today. I know we didn't really do our shout outs, normal stuff. Everybody's running around trying to get stuff done today, but I do want to, make one announcement that I think we can finally let the cat out of the bag to some degree. I mean, we're not going to, about one of our sponsors, but, we are now officially sponsored by Tut Land Company, which we are very, very excited about. Something we've been sort of working towards for a while now, and so the podcast will now be, brought to you by Tut Land Company. So obviously, we have close ties to them. Jeremy, Matt, Bray all work for Tut, and Jeremy's a broker. But it's just a cool relationship. We feel like it was just kind of a seamless partnership, between the two parties, because what we all do naturally and kind of what Tut stands for, what their specialty is. So we're just excited to kind of have them on board now, and they will be able to help us kind of expand our reach a little bit, hopefully, and then hopefully we can help them do the same, get more eyeballs on Tut and their agents and what all they bring to the table. One thing personally that obviously I'm not a realtor and don't have a license or anything like that, but one thing that I think is very cool is that there are several people that work for Tut that are also they're also biologists or foresters or both, and it's something that it seems like Tut encourages rather than tries to steer people away from. I know there's other places or other brokerages out there that hey, if you're going to work for us, I don't want you doing anything else. I don't want you thinking about anything else. Only do what we ask you to do. And Tut does not seem to be that way. They embrace the fact that there are people who have passions and skill sets in the same areas that make them special too. So they have really kind of embraced the idea that we are trying to talk land and trying to talk wildlife and habitat, and they want to come on, right alongside us and help make that a possibility and give us the opportunity to do things that we haven't had a chance to do before and provide more than we've ever been able to provide. So shout out to Tut. We appreciate that and kind of really excited about what the future holds too for both of us.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's gonna be good for all parties. No question.
No doubt. Well, guys, we appreciate you hanging out, and obviously, like always, your support means a ton. We've noticed a certain uptick in engagement and comments, shares, all the things, especially on Facebook. And so we're very thankful for you. And it's never our intention to get into any kind of like heated debate or anything. We really value your opinion, even if we disagree with you or you disagree with us. But we value your input. So continue doing that. Please share the podcast, like, share, subscribe, follow, all the things. Share it with a hunting buddy or somebody that you know that's interested in this type of stuff. And we've got some pretty big plans in the future that we can't really wait to get out there. And some things that we want to bring to the table, but we're really excited. So we certainly appreciate your support. And I guess with that, we will see you guys on the next one.
Yeah, stay tuned to Kansas. We're going to drag a few more out.
That's right.
Heck yeah.
All right, see you guys.
See y'all.